Hi students, this is Ritik Sir, your biology subject matter expert from MEMONEET. And once again, welcome to the biology series. In today's video, we'll be concentrating on the biological evolution. So what is biological evolution and what all the things that comes under the biological evolution? That is what we are going to concentrate in this video. So we know that the evolution is actually through the natural selection, right? So evolution by a natural selection is a true sense would have started when cellular form of life with the differences in metabolic capacity or capability originated on Earth. That means that the evolution actually they might have started from the cellular form of life, either because of the differences in their metabolic capability which have got originated on the earth. That is how the evolution might have started. Okay, so these essence of Darwinian theory about evolution is called as natural selection. That means with time to time, those organisms which were able to, withstand with environmental changes or with any changes, so they were able to withstand, okay, with to come up with new mechanisms or anything. So those organisms got evolved and those organisms were survived. That is what they say. And it comes as natural selection. The rate of appearance of the new form is linked to the life cycle or the lifespan. Okay. Say like if we take a microbes that divide faster, when compare, microbes are the one which actually what? Divides faster. And they have the ability to multiply and become what? Millions of individual in the within 1 hour or within an hour. So the colony of bacteria, say like we will consider it as A, grows on a given medium, have built a variation in term of ability to utilize a feed compound. Okay. And in the next plate, a change in the medium. So now the medium has been changed. Okay. Composition would bring out only a part of population, say like B. See, like if you just observe here, there are color, there are different population. Now, when the media got changed, only one part of population, say like B, okay, that can survive under a new condition. So, in due course of time, this variation, okay, that have been shown, or the variant population outgrows the others and appears as a new species. That means out of that, the one which have changed itself to the variation, right? So that the variant population outgrows, that appears as what? New species. And this would happen within a days. For the same thing to happen, even in case of fish or fowl, would take millions of years, as because the lifespan of these animals are different and they are years, right? So here we can say that fitness of bay, that is the fitness of B, the organisms which are able to adopt themselves is better when compared to fitness of A. Okay, because now these organisms, they are able to undergo changes with new condition where the organisms which were in A, they were unable to. So what happens as a result? Natural selections for fitness. One must remember that so-called fitness is actually based on what? The characteristics which are inheritable or inherited instance, the one which we get from our ancestor, whatever it is. Hence there must be a genetic basis of getting selected and to get evolved. Another way of saying the same thing is that some organisms are they're better adapted to the survival in an otherwise whatever the new environmental condition. Adaptive ability is what? Inherited, right? So it has a genetic basis. Fitness is the end result of the ability to adopt and get selected by what? nature. So the branching descents and natural selections are of two key concepts of the Darwin's theory of evolution. So even before Darwin, a French, Lamarck had said that the evolution of the life form have occurred but drive by use and disuse of organism. That means evolution that might have occurred and have been derived. The major thing might be use and disuse of organism. Say like we have a giraffe. He said that the giraffe size, neck size was very small. But now what happened in order to get food, the giraffe, it was trying, it was jumping, it was trying to stretch his neck. And finally, with evolution, you can see that the giraffe has finally got the long neck. Okay. So that is what he says. Use and disuse of organ. The fact that the theoretically population size will grow exponentially if everybody reproduce maximally. Okay, so as you have seen in the bacterial growth population, and fact that the population sizes reality they are limited means that there have been there has to be a competition of source. If you have only one specific source, obviously there will be a competition between the organisms at one certain point. Only what happens at times some survives and grew at the cost of others that could not flourish. That means some will be able to survive and the other will they have to leave up as they cannot survive or they cannot come up with some things. So novelty and the brilliant insights of Darwin was this, that he assisted that variations which are heritable and which make resources utilized better for few, like that means the one which are able to utilize the given resource in a better way will enable only those to reproduce and leave more progeny. Means those organisms will be able to reproduce and those organisms are the one which are going to survive. Hence for a period of time over many generation, survivor will leave more progeny and there would be a chance in population characteristics and hence new forms appears to arise. Then there comes a very small concept called mechanism of evolution. How this happens? What is a mechanism? See, one thing that we comes up with one specific doubt is what is the origin of this variations and how does the speciation occurs? That means how variation is happening and how speciation is occurring. That is what the question mark that comes in our mind. So for that, even though the Mendelian have taken the inheritance factors influencing the phenotype, like we have learned it in the genetics, right? But Darwin either ignored this observation or he kept silent. So in the first editions of 20th century, what happened? Hungo, he based on his work on they brought up for some of the ideas of mutation. Okay, so large differences arises suddenly in a population. So there is a population, suddenly a large differences will arise. So that is because of mutation. Then he believed that it is mutation which is actually causing what? Evolution. Okay, mutation is one which is causing evolution and not the minor variation, that is hereditary variation that Darwin talked about. So mutations are random and directionless, while Darwin's variation are small and they have been direction. That proper direction you can expect like where you can occur, but this mutation is random whenever it can happen and it is directionless. So evolution for Darwin was gradual, while D was D Fries, he believed the mutation causes the speciation and hence he called it what? Saltation, that is single step large mutation. Studies in the population genetics then later brought out some clarity about how mutation is happening and how evolution happens. There comes another principle called Hardy-Weinberg Principle, which is very important. So what is this Hardy-Weinberg Principle is all about? In a given population, one can find out the frequency of occurrence of alleles of a gene or the locus, the character. So these frequencies supposed to remain fixed. That the character will be fixed and even remain the same throughout the generation. That means that character, that gene, the locus, will be fixed and will be passing from generation to generation. Okay. So their Hardy-Weinberg principle stated it using what? Algebraic equations. This principle says that the allele frequencies in a population are stable and is and they're constant. Okay. From generation to generation, the alleles, the genes, the locus are constant from generation to generation. And the gene pool that we are talking, right? So they remain constant. This is called genetic equilibrium. Okay. So when you do the sum of all the allelic frequency, you have to get one. The sum of all allelic frequencies, one. So if you see this picture, you can easily like say like the A, which is actually representing the stability, peak gets higher and narrow. So number of individual with the phenotype. So A, it is representing stability. B is actually representing what? Directional. And C is representing disruptive. I'll just explain you how and all. Just remember this peak, okay? So here the phenotype favored by natural selection, medium-sized individuals are favored. So here you can see like it is showing stability, okay, with natural selection. Peak got shifted in one direction here. So that is direction. And later will leads to what? Disruption. That is two peak have been observing here. We'll discuss about this in depth with some equation form. So in individual frequency, for example, can be named as P and Q or anything. So in a diploid condition, what happened? P and Q, it represents the frequency of allele A, capital A, and allele small a. So what happens now? The frequency of capital A individual in a population is simply what happens here? So here P is represented by capital A and Q is represented by small a. So the frequency of A individual will be obviously P2, right? So this is simply stated in another way. That is the probability that an allele A with a frequency of P appear on both the chromosome. Okay. So that is capital A with frequency of P if it is appearing on two chromosomes. Okay, in both the chromosome, if it is appearing, okay. So P appear on both the chromosome of a diploid individual is simply the product. So that means what will be the product? Obviously, it will be P2, right? Probability, product of the probabilities will be P2. Similarly, if you are considering A and A, as I told you, capital A is P and small a is Q. Same thing if in two chromosomes you are seeing this thing, what happens? A is present, small a is present. So will be obviously Q2, right? Of this thing. So finally, what happens of capital and what if you in one chromosome you have A and in another chromosome you have what do you say that? So Q2, another chromosome you have small a. Obviously, you will see two A and B, like P and Q, right? Hence, as a result, what you will see is the sum will be 1. So P square plus 2PQ plus Q square is equal to 1. So this will be the formula. And what will be the binomial expression of this all over? You know the mathematical formula plus, right? A plus B whole square. The same thing will be up here. P plus Q whole square. Clear? So when frequency measured differences from expected value, the differences, that is direction, indicates the extent of the evolution changes, and disturbance in genetic equilibrium or Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium will be showing the change of frequency of allele in a population would then be interpreted as a result in what? Evolution. So there are five factors which we need to know, which are going to affect the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Very important statement-based question. It could be asked. What are those? These are, so gene migration, that is nothing but the genetic flow, genetic drift, mutation, genetic recombination, and natural selection. Okay, so how many are? Well, one, that is genetic flow, then genetic drift, then mutation, genetic recombination, and the last one will be natural selection. When the migration of the selection of population to another place and population occurs, gene frequencies changes in the original as well as in the new population also. So what happens then? The new genes or alleles are added to the new population, and these are lost from the old population. And these would be a genetic flow if these genes migrate from one population to another population. It happens multiple times. If the same change occurs by the change, it is called as genetic drift. Okay. And sometimes the change in allele frequency is so different in a new sample of population that they become a different species. That means the change will be so different from the previous one that it becomes a new kind of species. So then what happens? The original drifted populations becomes founders, and the effect is actually called as founder effect. Very important. Okay. So later on, what you will be seeing, like you have observed this microbial experiment, right? So there show the pre-existing advantageous mutation happened. So when selected with result in observing with the new phenotype. Over few generation, this would result in the speciation. And the natural selection is a process in which heritable variations enabling better survival are enabled to reproduce. That is, the one which are able to survive, they are able to reproduce and leave greater number of progeny or generate. Then the critical analysis makes us to believe that the variation due to mutation or variation due to recombination during the gametogenesis, or during the gene flow or genetic drift, the five things that I have said, results in the changed frequency of genes and alleles in the future generation. So the couplet to enhance reproductive succession, natural selection makes it look like different population. So natural selection can lead to what? Stability, right? And another one is directional flow. More individual occurs value other than mean, uh, you know, character value and disruption. That's what I told. Stability. The first graph that you have seen, right? So in which the more individual acquire more character value. That is stability. Then you will be seeing directional flow. Like again, it will the peak will attain at one specific direction here. So more individual acquire more value other than the mean character value or the structure. Like you have seen two different peaks, right? So more individual acquire peripheral character value at both ends of the disruptive curve. So this is all about what? Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. So till now, if you find any doubt, you can comment me to the message box or you can also reach me through the Telegram channel. So, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and also share with your friends. Thank you.